I go. What's up, Joe?
How you doing, Kim?
Good. How are you?
All right. Just want to say that my family and I are thrilled to see that you're back doing your thing. It reminds us that the world can be a good place.
Thank you.
Want to talk Giants for a second. As a Giant fan for 40 years, I'm trying to look at everything here from a 30,000-foot view. And seeing that my team was in the Super Bowl, we averaged one every 8 years, lucky enough to win 4 of them. Do you think that the deeper-rooted issue that Giant fans have is that the majority of Giant fans just might feel like we're not a well-run franchise anymore compared to the way we used to be? I'm frustrated. I don't know if it's one specific decision. I think it is more the cumulative effect of a bunch of different decisions that are now all intertwined. And I see why a lot of Giant fans are frustrated. I don't want to pin it all on Daniel Jones. I think that's not fair. I think that the draft is an inexact science.
Yep.
But for the first time in a long time, starting to lose hope. And even during some of the down years in the past, I never really felt like that. I always felt like we were a well-run franchise. I just don't anymore. What's your opinion on it?
Here's what I think has happened to the New York Giants, and I've said this on NFL Network, and I think I've said it, I'm sure I've said it here before. In my opinion, over the last handful of years, you can go back if you want to 2000, it's hard to start with 2012. They were coming off a Super Bowl, so that's not fair. And even 2013, but maybe starting 2014, certainly by 2015. The New York Giants have been comfortable with losing. And what I mean by that is they've lost a tremendous amount of games. They have lost a tremendous amount of games in the past several years. The past 2 alone, they've won a combined 8 games. That's very few games to be winning in the NFL, and that makes for very long NFL seasons for really everyone involved. But I think the New York Giants players, and I include Eli in this, and I don't mean it, I mean this more as an observation. I don't mean it as criticism. Because Eli stands at his locker and is accountable, and those are all very positive characteristics of Eli Manning. But Eli Manning has gotten used to explaining losses. You never want to get to that point where explaining losses comes naturally. And I think the New York Giants locker room got to that point over these last several years. So I do think it's been a losing culture, and I don't think enough has been done to change that culture. Now, there's been incredible roster turnover, some of which I don't think helps that cause, by the way. Some of it does not help that cause. They got rid of some guys who absolutely hate to lose, and not everyone in that locker room hates to lose. News break. Not everyone in that locker room hates to lose. Not anyone in every locker room hates to lose. I know players who don't hate to lose. Just because I would know human beings who don't hate, whatever their job is in terms of not living up to their expectation. That's human nature. Not everyone's wired the same way. So the New York Giants, when you talk about culture, and I get really tired of that word, but it's really the only one that fits. The Giants have a losing culture and seem to be doing everything, including multiple roster turnovers at this point, to change that losing culture. And that's where, Joe, and I thank you for the call, that's where it's going to have to start with the New York Giants. Last season, they went, I need to double check their hang with me for 1 second here. It's going to take me a second. The 2018 New York Giants schedule, because I want to, my mind is playing tricks on me in terms of the start. Here we go. Yes, thank you. I just thanked myself. The Jaguars game, I thought, was absolutely crucial last September 9th. They lost that game. Twice in the end zone, Odell Beckham Jr. had more separation on Jalen Ramsey, probably than Ramsey's ever given up on in his life. Eli missed him both times. Wide open in the end zone. That's as wide open as you can be. Wide open in the end zone. They lose that game 20-15. Remember, Saquon broke a run late. He had it really hard sledding against that Jags defense. And then he broke that one remarkable run that kind of let everyone know, what Saquon Barkley's all about. They then went at 0-1 to the Cowboys. And I thought that then became an absolute, no doubt about it, must win. They lost that game. They always seem to lose that game. We'll see how they do this year to open the season. And then the 1-7 start was on. And it was like running water where they couldn't turn off the faucet. I understand they went 4-4 in the second half of the season. Dave Gettleman celebrates that. That speaks to something also, right? He also points out that with a couple of stops, 3, I believe he says, they could have, 3 stops in particular, they could have been 7-1. Okay. I mean, most general managers don't talk that way, but Dave's very comfortable talking that way. So they've sort of romanticized that second half of the season from last year. You never see that happen. They won 5 games. 5 games. Bye, Bob Husler. Good to see you today. They won 5 games, and he's talking about improving from the year before. Well, they won 3. I mean, you could just start to roll dice to call plays, and you might win more than 3 games in the NFL. So that is my long answer, and it's not complete, believe it or not. It's not complete, but that is my long answer. If you want to talk culture with the Giants, see, you got to get down and dirty to what the culture has been. No one's, I'm going to take that back before I finish the sentence. A lot of players aren't upset after losses. Not all. And I'm not going to call people out. I know players who care absolutely deeply, and it kills them when they lose a game. But not everyone is angry after a loss. If I owned a team, if I managed a team, none of that's ever going to happen, obviously. But if I somehow had influence on a team, I would want players, and I would want an atmosphere where not winning was simply not acceptable and not okay and not something I ever got comfortable explaining. The Giants are working on getting there. I've seen a million press conferences. You want to talk about Tom Coughlin, and Tom Coughlin hates losing. There is no doubt about that. The bad hire, the disappointing tenure, to say the very least, of Ben McAdoo was there for those. Been there for the first year of Pat Shurmur. I'm not saying you always upset, garbage cans in the locker room, like Amani Toomer did, my memory tells me, way back when the Giants opened the stadium in Houston, the current stadium. The Giants lost, and Amani Toomer, upset tables in the locker room. I'm 90% sure my memory's right on that. I understand the idea that we're in a time where we don't really upset tables anymore, but you get the idea in terms of how much that meant. And that was a regular season game, as you guys know. They were opening the stadium, I think. There are things at the core that have to change for the Giants in terms of culture. And again, it certainly appears like Gettleman and Shurmur are trying. They've now updated the roster time and again. Swung and missed an awful lot in free agency last season. No one can argue that. You obviously hope this season's offseason has been much, much better, including this draft. Let's go to Vito in Brooklyn next on the